This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. Here she is, the one, the only, the amazing Kristen Thompson. Speak, serve, grow, rock your talk. How are you, my friend?
I'm so excited to be here. We were just chatting about how we know each other, but this is such a fun way to have a coffee chat and actually hang out.
Exactly. And there may be one or two people listening in on our coffee chat too, which makes it even more fun. Well, Kristen, you have been doing this for a while. One of the best compliments that I get, the reason I start with that is people say, Newman, the one thing I admire about you is you show up and you keep showing up. And It's like, we always know we can count on you. Like, you're the guy that talks about this. And I love one of the things that we'll talk about is some of your free training, which is totally awesome. You say, listen, there's 3 kinds of speaking. Yeah. There's paid professional speaking, and we're not going to talk about that. And there's free talks that you can use as a business development tool and as a lead generator and as a client generator. And we're totally going to talk about that. And then the third kind of talk, I even stopped paying attention. I wasn't sure what the hell the third kind of talk was. But I do #1 and I don't do #2. You do #2 and don't do #1. So I was like, this is perfect. There's 2 sides of the same coin. And you, my friend, you keep showing up with tremendous value. Your business keeps getting bigger and bigger. Your clients keep getting more and more success. How did you come to do what you're doing? And give us kind of the journey along the way that brought you to the empire that you're running today.
Well, it is a weird and wild ride, as most entrepreneurial journeys are, I think. I was saying to someone the other day that if you had met me in my 20s, first off, I was a train wreck, let's just say that. But also, if you said, will you ever own your own company or would you ever be like a commissioned salesperson? I would have said, no way, never, ever, ever. I came from a house where I was raised to be a good employee, keep your head down, do a good job at some place where you work, and maybe you'll get a raise someday. And no one in my family was an entrepreneur. And so all of this is very strange, not only to myself, but to my family as well. And yet it's become my great passion, my great love. And it all happened kind of by fluke, which is that I had spent a decade working in media sales. So I'd worked for companies like CBS and NBC and really honed my sales skills, but very much one-on-one, sitting around a table, doing kind of a consultation conversation with somebody. And I never imagined I would really leave that until it came time for my husband and I, after we got married, to think about starting a family. And suddenly I was scratching my head trying to figure out, well, how is this going to work? I don't want to be in an office downtown. It took me an hour sometimes in traffic to get downtown, be there all day, come back. I'm never going to see my kid. That's not the kind of mom I want to be. But I did still want to have a career and contribute to our finances and have a life outside of being a mom. And it kind of begged the big question, what the heck am I going to do? And I looked at part-time jobs. I don't know if you've ever done this, David, but they don't pay very well.
This is what I've heard.
I was shocked only because I just had never really looked before. I mean, I guess I was being a little ignorant, but I looked, in the online ads for part-time jobs, and the pay was abysmal, and you don't have any, of course, healthcare or 401k or benefits. And then I also started realizing, well, if I'm pregnant, how am I even going to get a job? I'm a pregnant woman. I'm unhirable, which I also had never thought about before. They're not going to tell you that's why they're not going to hire you, but they're not going to hire you. So I kind of flopped my way into working for a personal development company. And that's how I learned how to speak and sell. A lot of times I get asked, who was your mentor? Was it this person or that person? And I say, no, it was speaking. Speaking was my mentor. So through this company, they had this one talk that we all gave across the country. And we sold people into their goal setting and memory training workshops. And that was how I honed the skill, because I would go out and speak maybe 15 times every month. A lot of people do that in a year. I was doing that every month to help fill their workshops. If you do that for 6 to 12 months, you're going to get pretty good at figuring out, how do I walk into a room full of strangers, engage them, win them over, break down that barrier between you and the audience, and then get the right people buying your product. And so as I got really excited about this, I was telling the company, like, this is what we should be selling. This is the coolest thing ever. And everybody was always asking me, like, oh, yeah, like the memory workshop, goal setting sounds great, but how are you doing the thing you just did? So needless to say, they were not interested in changing their entire focus of their business to suit my whims. So I kind of ventured off on my own and then slowly built Speak, Serve, Grow, which this is our 10th year in business. Yay!
Amazing. Really, really great. So let's talk about the 15 gigs for the company, because I think this would translate. Obviously, you're early when you started doing your speaking. It's like, well, what did I learn from here that I can apply over there?
100%.
Did you arrange the gigs? They were willing to get in front of any group, anytime, because goal setting and time management are kind of universal, or how did they put you in front of the right rooms?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. So to even qualify for them to even let you go give a talk for their company, you had to first book 30 gigs for a speaker who was already up and running in their company. And so that was a tremendous training ground. And coming from a sales background, I, of course, was like, I'm going to crush this goal. Like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I wasn't too afraid. I would get nervous picking up the phone for sure, like I think anybody does. But I had a little bit of an advantage coming from a sales background. It wasn't totally weird to pick up the phone and reach out to somebody. But that training ground taught me how to book gigs. And then they had bookers that they had kind of on the side to help you once you were up and going as a speaker. But what I learned, and what I still believe to this day, and other big name speakers will attest to this, Larry Winget being one of them, that really you're going to book your best gigs. For most people, you are going to book your best paying gigs because you are making that connection with that leader of the organization or the group or the company, depending upon the kind of groups you want to reach out to. And when you connect with them, that's your best bet that it's going to be really successful. When somebody else is booking the gig, the awkward thing about that is they are the one who built that connection, and it's not always actually going to translate over. So I have carried that on into my own business, and I encourage my clients to do the same thing. Is you can do your own reach out, and if for people who are doing keynote speaking, you might do some of your own and some help with an agency. But for speaking to grow your business, you can really do it. It's not actually that time consuming once you get up and going. You may have somebody in your organization down the road support you, but I still believe that you always want to stay connected to getting your own opportunities, because they will in turn pay you back tenfold.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and even on a very simple practical level, it's very tough to outsource or delegate something that you have no idea how to do yourself.
What a great point. Yeah. And that's the other piece is, for sure, you better know how to do it yourself. It's kind of like you can't hire a salesperson until you know how to sell your own product and program and you have like a process developed. So even if you were going to get help, you would still want to start by booking your own gigs. That's a fabulous point. Yes.
Yeah, big time. Now, let's talk about, because you do something that's very, 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 very challenging, very valuable to your clients, but very challenging for you, which is live events, filling your own live events. Now, when did you start doing that? You almost at the beginning or no?
Not quite in the beginning. And it was a really big turning point in my business. So in the beginning, I was giving talks. I had just private coaching in the beginning. That was the only thing I offered, and that was a mistake. I mean, it's a good place to start, but that's very limiting. So once I created my first course, Command Any Room, I spent, which I did probably within 6 months of launching Speak, Serve, Grow, I spent about a year just giving one talk, selling people into Command Any Room. And I still believe that's a great way to really build up a business that, you're looking to expand your revenue pretty quickly, because you're very focused. You're not trying to do 100 different things. You're using that one talk and that one course as kind of the entryway into your business. I kind of liken it at my own live event that you were just referencing. I liken it to like welcoming people into your home, like you're opening the front door and welcoming them. And a course is a great way to do that. Well, once I had that built out and it was working, then it was like, well, how do I do this and keep my private coaching filled? It starts to feel like you're spinning a lot of plates at once. So that's when I realized, actually doing a live event would be a great next step, so that I can fill my private coaching or my group coaching program in one big swoop in a weekend. And then I'm keeping my talk, funneling people in through my entry-level program during the year. So it's definitely, I would never say to somebody, start your business by doing a big 3-day event because it's kind of backwards. But once you have an income and you have clients and you have a course or a product or a program people are funneling through, a live event or a workshop can be a great way to create a giant surge of long-term clients in kind of one big swoop.
Right, exactly. What a great episode. Wowza. Tell you what, if you want to ramp up your revenue as an expert who speaks professionally, you should really check out our free online training at doitmarketing.com/webinar. You also said something really valuable, I think, that people need to kind of back up, re-listen to what Kristen just said.
Here.
One talk, one program, because the mistake that I see a lot of people make, and I'm sure you see it with your clients and students also, is they do the one talk, they fill one program, and like, oh, now I'm going to do another program, and I have to build another talk, and I'll do a third program. Kristen, now I'm doing a third talk to fill the third program, and now they're on this crazy merry-go-round. And I think the mistake from my standpoint is a positioning and messaging conflict. And
100%.
imagine there's 3 front doors to your house. I love your metaphor. There's 3 front doors to your house. People go, I'm not going in that house. That house looks weird. There's 3 front doors.
Yes.
How do you get people to calm down, slow down, say, stick to your guns? Let's take this to what, 100,000, 300,000,
Yes.
get that going first, and
Yes.
then maybe expand out into program number 2. What's the kind of evolution or demarcation point that you recommend?
Well, I can't love you more than I do because I kind of snuck it in there, but it is literally like the commitment I ask my clients to make is we are not doing 5 different talks on 5 different topics. I think it's almost more akin to having like 5 different houses on in a neighborhood. It's even weirder and more confusing. Like, well, where do you live? Like, do you live here or do you live there? Like, are you on this mountain or this mountain? And so it is one of the most common challenges. There's a few others, but that's definitely at the top of the list. And I'll say that I was in the same boat in that first year when I launched Command Any Room. And it was a teleclass. So I'm really dating myself when I first sold it. And I got this group of people in it and I made this little batch of money. And then I turned to my coach and I was like, great, now what? She's like, do it again, ding dong. Like, what do you mean now what? Because just like everybody else, I thought, I have to create something new. So what I really help people anchor to is to remind us, what are we actually trying to do? We're trying to get more people to buy our program. So we don't need to create a new program. We just need to take the same talk that worked and put it in front of a new audience. And that's so much simpler. Number one, you're going to be so much happier. You're going to be awesome at giving your talk because you're not constantly changing the content. Now, we can keep it fresh so you don't get bored, but we are not going to keep disassembling and building new talks every month or even every 3 months. So you're going to be confident. It'll feel like, I know you're probably like this speaking, of course, at your level of experience where it almost fits like this jacket does. It's really comfortable. It's all broken in. You want to love your talk and know, oh yeah, I love this part when I share this story. And ooh, I'm going to get to share this great tip next. You want to know it and really feel into it. And you can't do that if you're constantly changing it. So for 100 different reasons, one talk funneling right into the center of your business. It doesn't mean you'll never sell other things, but we want the entry point to stay the same so you can get a ton of momentum and really scale it up.
No, that's really, really important. I also want to maybe broaden the palette here a little bit because some people listening might not know the breadth of the kind of folks that you work with. People say, so Kristen works with folks that want to be speakers. Like, no, it's way broader than that. So Is it service professionals? Is it, could I be selling if I'm selling water purification systems? Should I have a talk? If I'm selling insurance, should I have a talk? If I'm selling roofing, should I have a talk? And how broad is it? And what are some, give us some weird situations where people have come to you and they're like, oh my God, speaking is the secret magic key. And you'd never think of that kind of person maybe as a speaker.
Yeah, I think honestly, it does work across the board. So I kind of feel like I have 2 groups of people. Most of my clients are professionals or experts in their field. So they would not label themselves as speakers. they would label themselves as an expert, a naturopathic doctor, a branding person, a stylist, a marketing coach, things like that. And they're really good at what they do. They just need more people to know about them. And so I'm helping them really take, most of my clients feel like teachers at heart. That would be a better label. So it's more taking that desire to help people and to, talk about this thing that they love so much and they're so great at, and helping them build a talk that will attract more paying clients into their business. Now, on the other side, it would be a speaker who's maybe already out speaking, like a keynote speaker, but who wants to kind of travel over into the world of, okay, now I want to create a course, or now I want to have a live event, or now I want to open up some sort of program or coaching or consulting arm of their business. So it's either speakers traveling towards the business side or business people wanting to get more visibility. So I do see a wide array of clients. I have, 7-figure professional development companies who hire me to help create the talk, kind of like the one I was giving for the company I worked for, that they roll out to their team, and working with their team on, the sales strategy, the delivery, all of those pieces, to working with little solo entrepreneurs who have like a 6-figure branding company and they want to be able to get out online and off and really use their message as that way to attract clients. And I think for a lot of people, that's really attractive, especially in today's market, when we don't want to feel super pushy or salesy. It's very awkward. And I'm convinced this is kind of how I fell into this, is I don't want to call somebody up and say, hey, I'm Bob, the chiropractor. Do you want some chiropractic services? Nobody wants to do that, no matter what you do, cold call or go to a networking event and be pouncing on people with your business card. It's so awkward. And I think now more than ever, there's this cry for people to just be really more transparent, be less scripted. That's another big thing with, the style that I teach. It's why I call it rock your talk and not polish your presentation. We want to have a great strategy. I want you to know what great story you're going to tell or things like that. But we do not need to script every word and nuance, every hand gesture, to the point where it sucks the soul out of you. So this gives you kind of a more natural way to get really visible. And then the clients are coming up to you at the end of your talk. You're not chasing them. You're not running around shoving business cards at people. It's actually the other way around. They're shoving order forms at you. So if you're slightly introverted like I am, that is way more enjoyable.
Way more fun.
Way more
fun. It's like, take my credit card already.
Yeah, exactly.
I want what you're talking about.
Yes.
Let's talk about something else that I think a lot of people neglect, but you're so brilliant at teaching this, and you're living this, which is the brand personality. A lot of people think, they go to Toastmasters, they go to NSA, they hire a speech coach, and there's the way to give a presentation. There's the way to do a 45-minute talk, and I have to do it like this one does or like that one does. Let's go, even before we talk about the talk, which I think is going to be really super fun, talk about how do you unleash people to stop being afraid of showing their personality, their quirks, their preferences. What if they don't like dogs? And I always talk about my dog. Well, what if they don't like bourbon? And I really enjoy bourbon. Bourbon's a hobby of mine. And, what if someone, God forbid, has an alcohol addiction problem and that offends them? Or we use certain words, the F-bomb, the G-bomb, the Q-bomb. I don't know what bombs are out there. And they don't like
a lot of them nowadays.
We got to find out what the Q-bomb is. But brand personality, let's talk about that. How does that play into all of this?
First off, you're such a great interviewer. And I mean, truly, I've been on tons of podcasts and shows, and you are a phenomenal interviewer. So thank you. This is so fun. You're asking the best questions because you're so right. It's really easy to say, be yourself on stage. And as a speaker, it's easier to say than to actually do, for all of the reasons that you just said. So going back to the beginning of my own speaking career, I was one of those people where I was, especially because I was in the beginning working for the company, I was really representing them. So I was in the navy suit with a white button down, with a bob, with my heels on, really trying to fit into the mold. including, because it's not so much about how you dress, but I mean, I'm using that as sort of the visual example of how I was presenting, which was, it was very buttoned up and I was not letting my sense of humor and my quirkiness come out at all. And what happened for me was one day, because, you can only squash who you are so long. Like it takes a lot of effort to kind of control your actual natural personality. But I was doing it, not consciously, but I was doing it. I was kind of tamping it down. And this one talk, the like goofy, weird zingers that tend to come flying out of my mouth, one just slipped out. And it was like, oh, like if I could have pulled it back in, I would have. I was terrified in the moment, like, holy cow, what did you just say? And I think I was speaking to some mortgage brokers or something. And I kind of expected them to gasp in horror. Now, mind you, I don't remember exactly what I said. It was just some joke. I just remember the fear that came over me the minute I realized it had been said out loud. And instead, the whole audience erupted in laughter. And the whole energy in the room shifted. And suddenly I was like, I have chills literally right now, just recalling it, realizing, holy cow, this whole room is now, I just shook up all the energy just by being myself. And now they're with me. Like they just thought that was hilariously funny. Well, that was really the seed, I think, for understanding the importance of brand personality. From that day forward, it took a little while, but I started kind of peeling off the layers of the onion until I fully owned and realized, oh, okay, if you just knock it off and be yourself at the front of the room, you'll convert actually at a higher rate because there isn't a barrier. As a speaker already that, if you're giving a good keynote talk, you don't want a wall between you and your audience, right? That would kill your results, essentially, kill your connection. So especially if we're speaking and we want people to eventually make a decision to move forward with us, we have to break down that barrier. And we can't do that if there's literally a barrier between who we are and the audience. So I have kind of a process for uncovering that with people, but just for the sake of this, I'll just say it's not that hard. I have a little brand personality archetype process where we can just look at how do you show up naturally? Like when you're really comfortable and you're confident and you're with your friends, how do you show up as a leader? And then learning through that, how to show up like that on stage. I am not a huge fan. I'm kind of curious what your take is on Toastmasters. I find that people who do Toastmasters end up focusing, I think it serves a really great purpose in that it gives people practice, but it gets people so focused on counting their ums and their ahs and being almost overly self-conscious. So I see people winning awards in Toastmasters who are still not actually out giving talks, having fun, making money, because they're so hung up on trying to be perfect. And it's so not necessary. In fact, being imperfect will do you a favor.
Totally agree. Totally agree. One thing, I love what you said about the way that you coach your folks to give talks. One of my mantras, and I don't teach this, but people say, well, David, should I memorize the talk? I'm like, oh my God, no. The one way to kill a talk, no matter what you're talking to, no matter who you're talking to, is to memorize anything, for God's sakes. So what I say is familiarize, don't memorize. And it's always better to show up. And you have this whole beautiful structure, which we can talk about. And we're giving people the roadmap and the blueprints and all this cool stuff later on. And we're going to tie that up in the show notes when they go to thespeakingshow.com. But familiarize, don't memorize. And variation is your friend. If you were to tell someone about, let's say you just bought a new car, and over the course of the next 3 days, you tell 3 friends about this new car, and one you're having coffee with, and one you do it over the phone, and one you're doing it at your kid's baseball game. You're going to convey the same information. You're going to convey a ton of enthusiasm. You're going to convey a ton of energy. All 3 people are going to want to test drive in your car. But when you replay the tape from those 3 conversations, it is not going to be the same conversation. It's not going to be the same words. It's not going to be the same opening. It's not going to be the same closing. It's not going to be the same way that you describe the rich Corinthian leather. It's the structure and the meaning and the excitement is going to transfer the same, but it's not scripted. So, bullet outline, which actually brings me to my next point, since I'm just rattling on here. The mistake I made early on, because I did a lot of speaking to promote my speaking and one-on-one coaching back in the day also.
Yeah.
I would fire hose the hell out of people. I would say, oh, here's 21 marketing strategies.
Yes.
And they would come up to me after, like glazed over.
Yeah.
And when the topic of hiring me came up, you can see where this is going. They're like, oh, I got 14 pages of notes, David. Let me go home and study my 14 pages of notes. Then if I need more overwhelm, I'll call you.
Yes. Yeah.
So how do you architect the talk so that it's a high converting talk and not a data dump or fire hose talk?
Such a great question. And this is when I was saying earlier, the many talks is one of the top challenges. This would be like the top, I think, even above that. So I always say there's kind of three different types of speakers. There's obviously infinite types, but if we were going to kind of bucket the challenges, one of them I called the teacher, meaning, and you're a teacher and I'm a teacher, which is we come with this spirit of service and we have the heart of a teacher. That kind of causes a compulsion to over deliver content. And it is a bit of a compulsion. And I always say to my clients, we can't cure this compulsion, but we're going to manage it. I can't make it go away because it's really your heart of service, which we want to keep. But we do need to rein it in. And then there's wingers. Those are less common, but those are really bold, very truly extroverted type personalities, which I'm not, but a lot of people are. And that can cause you to just go up without even the roadmap, where you're just like, oh no, I'm good. I know this. I've been doing this for 20 years. And so that person's talk is kind of like a Wild West. It just goes all over the place. And usually it ends up being accidentally kind of self-centered because they might tell like a lot of stories. What happens there is we miss content, right? They miss sharing the important points because they wander too far. And on the teacher's end, it's way too much content, like too much volume of content, or it goes really deep into the details where it starts to feel heavy and kind of like hard to do. So either one of those things will stumble your sales. The teacher, which you and I both are, and many, many of my clients are, our job is to really rein in the volume of content and make sure that we're really just sharing the most essential, like 3 or 4 tips that we can during that time that are going to have the greatest impact, but also can be grasped in the least amount of time. So this isn't the time to go into an 83-step process or, okay, you're going to go home and journal on this. And, and by the next week, you'll have this thing. It's like, we can't give people projects because they're sitting in the talk. They can't actually get that quick burst of a like aha or a return on the talk. So what I help people do with my talk structure is really rein that in so that, again, let me finish this thought and I'll bounce back to the memorizing piece. But the point is to create and teach the hottest teaching points, the ones that people get the most excited about in your talk, again, that you can get them to take action on, or they can get the aha right there in the room. And that'll have you get that impact piece, that, wow, I just learned a lot, without the overwhelm. And if we craft the talk properly, then we're going to shift from just getting compliments, which is where people get stuck oftentimes, to compliments and paying clients, which is what we really want, because they did learn something, but they also understood, where else do I need to take this to fully see a fully realized result? That's a big game changer. And so then when we're following this roadmap, it is a roadmap. So I love having people using the memory strategies that I learned from the personal development company. If we're going to memorize, we're going to memorize the roadmap, not the words, not hello, my name is Kristen, good day. And like every time it's the same. So you made such a great point there. You can memorize the flow, which gives people a lot of confidence. So like, I know my 3 points, and then I'm going to kind of review what I just said. And then I'm going to go into my offer. Knowing that will give those of you who get nervous, like I do, I'm a kind of a nervous Nelly, sky is falling personality. So I was like, oh, okay. Like you can't really go wrong if you know what you're going to share in what order, because nobody knows the exact words. So that part doesn't matter. And you can then relax and know your mind's not going to go blank. You're not going to have that weird moment they always do in the movies where like, and then you run off stage crying. That's never going to happen to you because you know the points, but you're going to let it come out organically, just like you were recommending, so that it's never boring and it always connects, and that you can be inspired and let a new thought, a new story pop into your head, a funny story, and go, oh, that reminds me. And then we've got all the spontaneity, but within the confines of a structure, so you don't get too wily and you don't overteach either.
Yeah, absolutely. So this reminds me of two things. Number one, I know you're a musician, and this reminds me of a set list. Like,
Yes.
what if I forget? What if I forget? Like, listen, dude, you got the set list, right?
Yeah.
We open with this, and then we do these three, and then this is kind of like the tearjerker slow thing in the middle, and then we go down here, and then we have the rocking and rolling finish, and that's the
Yeah.
last song, and I got the set list, no problem. In fact, the
I'm
set list can be
stealing that.
written
I'm going to use
down.
that from here forward. I will credit you.
No, well, you're the one that's playing the guitar, not me. So that's
Well, no,
yours.
the
Enjoy.
set list, though, what a perfect analogy. It is
Right.
a perfect analogy. And much like a set list, as you know, as a keynote speaker, the talk has a flow, right? The talk isn't a flat line. It also isn't all like hype jams, and it's not all sad songs. A playlist is going to it's going to crescendo, and then the show is over. And the same is true with a good talk. Is we do want to organize what's happening in what order, so that you crescendo, you make your offer, you close, and then rush of people come to the stage. So that is the world's most perfect analogy. Woo-hoo!
There it is. Fantastic. Hey, good looking. Are you currently getting paid to speak? Would you like to ramp that up? We can help. Book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team at doitmarketing.com/call, and let's see what we might do together. The call is free, but the results may be priceless. I know you have a whole lot of resources. We're going to get to share those here in a moment, but I'm just always curious because I'm channeling our listeners, and they're saying, Kristen, this sounds fantastic. It sounds amazing. It's exactly what I need. People say, if I could just get in front of more prospects. Well, instead of getting in front of prospects one-on-one, how about 1-on-50, 1-on-12, 1-on-20, 1-on-200? That's what a speaking strategy for lead generation will give you. They're asking, how do I get in front of the rooms? Where are these groups? Do I go to the chamber? Do I go to the ladies' auxiliary? Am I in the library basement? Do I go to the church basement? Do I stay out of basements? What do I do?
So I'm like, the basements are scaring me. That's funny. So that is a great question. And it is actually, when I got started and I created Command Any Room, which was the first program I ever created, that was one of the things I wanted to answer for people, because I saw in the market, a lot of people were like, write your signature talk, and we're going to craft your signature talk. And all these people were bumbling around with these talks on paper that they had no idea, like, how do I give it as being me, and how do I make money from it? And then where do I get these magical talks from? So let me give everybody a couple of quick tips. First off, the field is broad, meaning there are literally, especially now that there's all of these platforms, Zoom, podcasts, the Facebook Lives, there's 80 million different platforms that you can get on. So the first thing is to trust that the world is abundant, because it really truly is. And as you start digging into this, you're going to find endless number of people who you've never heard of, who are wildly successful, who have podcasts and events and networking groups and meetups and all kinds of fun stuff. So a couple of things that everybody can do. One is, just first, obviously know who you want to get in front of, because that's going to help narrow the field a little bit. Chambers of commerce are a good place to speak. They're not the best. They're not like my favorite, but they are good, especially if you want to go speak to some companies in town. It's actually a great way to book talks where you could get in front of like sales and management teams. For people who do consulting, that's a great way to get in. It's a great way to sell things to some small business owners. It's not necessarily my all-time favorite, but it's a great place to start, and it's right in your backyard. You can literally start building your name in the next 30 days, which is what I did. I mean, I hit the ground running, and within a year was very well known in Portland as being a very good speaker in my first year. Why did that happen? I spoke everywhere. Do you know that song, like, I've been everywhere, man, I've been everywhere? When my husband and I drive out to the coast, I'm like, I spoke there and I spoke there, I spoke there and I spoke there. I spoke everywhere, man. I didn't care. I would speak to a chamber in farm country to 10 people. I would speak to a sales team at a radio station. I would speak to a business association, a real estate company, a mortgage company. So depending upon what your niche is and who your clientele are, you just want to start brainstorming today. Where do those people gather? So are there networking groups they might belong to, business associations? And there are business associations for everything under the sun. There's even an association of business associations. Boom, let your brain explode on that one. It exists. And then there's like meetings and meeting planners, live events, conferences. So every industry, whether you're in fitness or branding or personal development or skincare, there are conferences and events. Cryptocurrency, you could choose any topic in the world. Comics, right? We got Comic-Con. So you want to just start brainstorming, where are there groups already gathered? A lot of times we shut down when we try to think of things. We kind of get nervous and then we're like, I can't think of anything. So if you get a little bit frozen in your brain, that's okay. You could Google your industry or other industries that serve your audience, and then just put in the word like association or event or workshop, and you're going to start to see tons of stuff pop up. And the third tip that everybody can do is ask your friends and colleagues. So I could ask David, like, oh, where have you spoken in the last year that you really loved? Are there any events that I should have on my radar? And he could ask me, and then I could ask another friend. And next thing you know, we're all swirling ideas and sharing people, places, and resources to go speak. And that's really how I started, is just reaching out and asking people for suggestions. I'm going to sneak in one last tip on this, which is think of it this way. Once you give one talk, and you know this from your experience as a speaker, you can get referrals at that talk for other speaking engagements. So in a way, like once you get that wheel turning, it can be a never-ending loop of like more and more opportunity, as long as you remember to ask. And we help support you to do that here at Speak Serve Grow. And I know you do, I'm sure, with your clients. Just ask for referrals. Let people know. I do about 99% of my speaking on referral. And then you'll constantly have an influx of really warm leads, and you'll never be at a loss for places to reach out to.
Absolutely. But that also goes back, let's be very honest about this. It goes back to the personal branding that you talked about. It goes back to having a really great talk that you deliver with authenticity and personality and fun. So, let's just be clear that people will get amazing referral business, spin-off businesses, momentum will kick in unless you suck.
Yeah, don't suck. And here's the great news. It's not that hard to not suck. Like when I was saying I became well-known in the first year, I wasn't saying that to brag. I was saying that to say I barely was learning what I was doing. And people were like, oh, you got to get Kristen. And the reason why is the bar is a little bit low, in my opinion, which is good news.
Yeah.
If you put any effort into your brand, like people love the Rock Your Talk brand. Why? It's just ever so slightly different. It's a little more fun than the regular polish your presentation vibe, right? So the truth is, if you put a tiny bit of effort into your brand and letting it be very authentic to you, and you have a great talk title that's on brand, it's going to stand out. And then just you being yourself in front of the room is very rare. So if you allow yourself to do that, and you have a good strategy behind your talk, that's more than the average person is going to do, and you'll instantly stand out. So putting the effort in gives you a huge return back for sure.
Absolutely right. And I love everything that you said, that, it is not that hard not to suck. Because everyone else, you guys have been around, right? They've gone to the chamber like, oh my God, someone let this guy speak. Someone let her talk. Oh my goodness, I can do better than that.
Because bless their hearts, they're brave enough to get to the front of the room. Right. And I mean, hats off, because we all know it's a risk. But they're not learning any of the strategy. So if you just spend some time, learning the strategy, you're already heads and shoulders above other people.
Exactly. Totally fantastic. Well, I wanted to ask you two final questions. The final question is, how do people get connected and stay connected to more Kristen? And we got some templates and goodies and downloads and all these things we've been talking about, Kristen's going to give to you. Question before that, though, is if people were to take one central idea about how to speak, serve, grow, how to rock your talk, how to use speaking strategically as a business development tool in their toolkit, what would you hope that one central concept or that one key idea that they're taking away would be?
It goes kind of all the way back to the beginning of our chat when you so brilliantly honed in on one talk selling one product. If that's all people took away, it would simplify their lives and their ability to make money so much. In today's world, I could podcast, I could do a video funnel, I could do a backflip into an online marketing something. Okay, let's just calm down. Let's give one talk and sell people right into the front door of your business. And if that's all you did, your business will grow. It can't not grow if you're doing that. And it's very easy to implement. So that's always where I want to recenter and encourage people. Just get started right there.
Tremendous choice of the central idea. Completely agree. Focus, my friends. Focus like a crazy person.
Lighten your load.
Yeah. All right. People are starving at this point. I can hear them. They're starving. They're drooling. They're like, give me the good stuff. Kristen, where do I go? So where can we send them? And we'll tie this up in the show notes. The links are right below here at thespeakingshow.com. What goodies can we leave them with?
Oh, I have goodies. Do I have goodies? So all you need to do is go to speakingreallyworks.com. So speakingreallyworks.com will give them access to a kind of like a trifecta of training. So they will get the brand personality piece because it's hard to go into so much detail in the interview, but there'll be a little mini training and a download of those brand personality archetypes. So you can start to get clear on what yours is. That's going to be super helpful. We've got the talk template. So the structure, that high level roadmap. So you can kind of see how that flows, that set list and how that works together. And then the third piece are some revenue generating ideas. So just get your mind thinking about the kind of business you have and then where would that fit in with this speaking strategy so you understand how it turns into revenue for your business, whether you do online or offline. There's ideas for everybody. So that little set is at Speaking Really Works. There's a training and a download for each one of those. It is a great way to get started and start putting this into action.
And there may be some people listening, and there should be, and there will be, who want to go big and who want to go to the live event. Let's talk about the live event for a second.
Yeah, the live event is in October. And so, it's a great way to kind of immerse yourself for 3 days in my insanity. So you will laugh for sure. You'll have a really good time. And I am a teacher. So you're going to get a big fat binder of content to go with it. But what happens is we really dig into implementing these pieces. So even my current clients, they still come back to the Rise and go, okay, well, where is my brand at today? It's not necessarily that you're going to change your whole archetype, but every year we want to be evolving our brand and how we're showing up. So we look at your brand, we make some decisions about how you want to up level the way you're showing up into it. We look at your talk strategy and really create that roadmap of how you're going to use your talk over the next year into some of the deeper learning around closing the room. That's usually where people want the most practice and support and where we get really big mindset breakthroughs. So you leave with the know-how and the plan, and then you have some goals and some action steps to really put this into life in your business. So that's the Rise Live event. It's October 25th through the 27th. We do it right here in Portland, Oregon. And if people visit Speak, Serve, Grow, they can actually check out the live event. Or if they're on Facebook, feel free to just ping me and ask me about it, and we'll get you set up for sure.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.